Siomra Eugh.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Tiny Room. Welcome back after 2 weeks in absentia to Michael and Benjamin's podcast. I'm the Michael of Michael and Benjamin's podcast, and I am joined by the man who so defines the genre of body horror that many things which are horrific in body horror are described as Collopy-esque. It's Benjamin. Very good. You're like a monstrosity. Benjamin, we've been on holidays.
We have.
But now we're back.
We are. I was trying to say we are there.
Yeah, look, you could tell there we're off our rhythm, Ben.
We're off our rhythm.
You'd usually say something witty there, but instead you just said, we are.
Look, Michael, body horror is no joke, and being transformed into a horrific fly thing is not easy, and my vocal cords are having a bit of a strained day. Michael, I'm not going to lie to you.
If you're having difficulty with your vocal cords, then who's going to provide this week's theme music?
It's okay, I've hired a Ben impersonator. Check him out. 1, 2, 3...
Theme music for the podcast. We don't actually have any theme music.
Very good, always witty, Ben. Benjamin, while we've been away,
Go on.
COVID hasn't improved, and films haven't been released, and nothing has changed.
In fact, it might be argued that COVID has gotten worse.
Yeah. Benjamin, imagine 3 years ago when we started this podcast, the very concept of taking 2 weeks off as our summer holiday in the height of summer movie season
would have been unthinkable, Michael. Would have been unthinkable.
Unthunkable, Ben. No one would have ever thunk it. They would have said, the risk you're running. You'll lose all your listeners to all the other pop culture podcasts.
Here we are now. You'll lose all your listeners to the other pop culture podcasts.
Yeah. But we didn't, Ben, because, we assume we didn't. Because the other pop culture podcasts also have nothing to talk about. So shut up, all those other podcasts. Yeah,
we got him. We got him, Michael. We got him.
Yeah. Benjamin.
Yes.
Let's do a bit of revisionist history, as you're quite fond of, and talk about the things that have happened which are of note while we were on holiday.
Well, Michael, we got trailers for a few things. Marvel's been mucking about, Michael, while we were on our hiatus.
Non-stop messing, Ben.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Michael, we're going to take a moment of silent prayer for Black Widow.
What's happening with that?
Pushed back a whole bloody year.
Is it?
Yeah, pushed back to May 2021.
That's so far away.
That is a year from its original intended airing date.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a kick in the pants. So we're never going to get to see that, Michael. That's never coming out.
Okay.
It's going to disappear forever. New Mutants has made no cultural footprint at all.
No whatsoever, Ben.
None. And then, Michael, we got a trailer for something that we're actually, I don't know if we're excited about it, Michael, but we're interested in it. It's bloody Wandavision.
Wandavision, Ben. It's like someone at Marvel saw the TV show Legion and said, it would be amazing if we made the TV show Legion, but about Marvel characters.
Yeah, we should have probably done that, shouldn't we?
And then another guy said, sir, well, excuse me, sir, just one moment there, sir. That they actually are Marvel characters. And he was like, shut up, intern. Just do it again.
Wished.
Do it again.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
anyway.
Bowie, it's been so long.
She has missed Michael, and she's there to give a little cheer to let everybody know that I'm still here, you tossers.
I must admit, I did kind of forget about Bowie's contribution to the podcast during my 2 week break.
It's very important. It's key that she barks.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
What's going on? Is she a witch now? Is she manipulating the reality, or are they in some sort of holographic field? What's happening?
Michael, I think what's happening...
The Scarlet Witch.
I think what's happening...
Yes.
...is that we're going to have a little bit of a skin graft from the old House of M.
Right,
House of M is a storyline that came out from Marvel, whereupon Wanda said the phrase, no more mutants.
She did, I remember.
She bloody rebuilt the entire Marvel universe to have exactly that, a bloody mutant utopia. So it's the exact opposite thing. Oh no, wait, sorry, I've mixed that up. You have. She originally, Michael,
originally
gave the world a mutant utopia.
Yeah.
Then, at the end of that, because she had a little bit of a mental breakdown, Michael.
Yeah.
She went and took them all away. Sorry, that's my mistake. So I reckon what we have here is Wanda going through a little bit of a mental breakdown around the death of Vision.
Yes, and she seems to have recreated him, possibly either psychically or physically. Who knows?
Who knows? We can't really tell, Michael, because we haven't written the show.
We haven't written it. We don't know. What I like, Ben, is that it's working on this kind of sitcoms through the years styling.
Yes, it's going to be a parody of American television.
Yeah, and they've cast all of your great sitcom actors.
Yeah, there's a few of them in there. I missed a lot of them. Go on, riddle them off there, Michael.
I haven't looked this up, Ben, but Eric Foreman's mother from that 70s show
Kitty.
is in the... Kitty, yes. I can't remember the actress's name, unfortunately. But she's there in the dinner scene.
Yep.
And she's playing Kitty, basically.
Catherine Hahn is there.
Yeah, Catherine Hahn, who... What was she in? Was she in Suddenly Susan?
She was in Suddenly Susan, but she was also in Suburbia. I don't know if you remember that one.
I don't.
It was the one where an edgy New York teen moves into a crazy American suburb.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they're bringing in sitcom actors
It's
to
good.
be in this kind of sitcom thing. I think it looks quite interesting. I think it could be either an evolution of the concept behind Legion of the kind of what's going on wibbly wobbly world, or it could be terrible because it's a little bit more corporate and a little bit more diluted. Now, having said that, Ben, Legion was made by Fox,
who are the corporate diluters.
I know, and that turned out quite all right. So it's very hard to tell, Ben. All I'm saying is it's very hard to tell. I am quite excited about it because it, can't be delayed because it's on television.
It's on television.
Yeah, so we can actually watch it.
But even down to the name, Michael, it's a parody of the different kind of innovations that were made in television. So you had your Wandavision, Colorvision, Technovision.
I thought it was a parody of One Direction.
That's why you have that giant poster of Harry Styles in a Scarlet Witch outfit on the wall behind you.
There's Niles here. He's Quicksilver.
He's Quicksilver.
Niall. Yeah. Then there's Zane. He's Magneto. And there's Louis Tomlinson. He's what's her son's name?
How do you know their names?
Speed. Then there's who did I forget? Harry, Zane, Louis. The other one. There's the other one. He's Wiccan. He's Wiccan. Yeah.
Didn't expect this, here. Michael. Did not expect this commitment to the bit.
One Direction. Yeah. One Direction.
Yeah, right. So moving on from there, Michael.
So the joke of that, Ben, was that One Direction has the same number of syllables as Wandavision. That's really the entire joke.
I mean, that's the soul of wit, Michael, is loose and tenuous connections.
Yeah.
Between things. That's really,
Speaking of tenuous connections, Ben, we took a 2-week break. Ostensibly, Ben, so we could have a little holiday and refresh our mentalities. But in reality, do you want to reveal to the listeners, Ben, the real reason we had to take a 2-week break?
Well, Michael, I wanted to get through Dune by Frank Herbert before the movie came out.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael, you'll know because you've read it. It is the equivalent of a door in terms of tome-like qualities. And it's huge. And it takes quite a bit of slogging. And you actually wanted to continue the podcast, Michael. You said, come on, Ben, do a quick episode. I was like, no.
Yeah, you said there's too many words here I don't recognize. I keep having to stop and look them up and then finding out that they're fictional words.
It's bloody ridiculous. Muad'Dib. Wadib. What am I supposed to do with that?
It's a desert mouse, Ben.
It's a desert mouse.
You kept texting me, Ben. You kept texting me going, Mick, what's a Gom Jabbar? And I was like, Benjamin, just keep reading. You'll find out. The book is it's building a world, Ben. You don't have to know what a Hakananarnan is. You'll find out
if you just... Gom Jabbars were so dangerous.
If you just have a bit of patience and allow the world of the book to envelop you, you'll find out what all of the weird words are.
I'm going to name my kid Stilgar. I am. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Benjamin, did you enjoy the book Dune?
Michael, I can't believe I waited so long to bloody read it.
Well, Ben, now, this is the point of the podcast whereupon usually we would dive into, talking about the book and its good points and its bad points. But instead, let's analyse you, Ben.
Oh, no.
And the issue we have here is you can be quite stubborn, Benjamin.
I can.
And when I said, Ben, you should read Dune,
yes.
You went, yeah, I won't, though. And I said, well, let's ask Shane if he thinks that you should read Dune. So we asked Shane, and I said, Shane, do you think Ben should read the book Dune? And he said, yes, definitely he should read the book Dune. And you said, oh, but it's so old.
Yeah.
And then you refused. So how has the revelation of Dune been to you?
Michael, I have been shamed. I have not followed the old ways.
No.
I should have followed the old ways.
Yes.
And I should have read Dune by Frank Herbert. Michael, you and Shane, my arch enemies both,
Yes.
were completely correct on this particular occasion.
Ben, among others, like, we're not the only people who like the book Dune.
Oh, you are, though. It's you, me, Shane.
Oh, is it?
That's it.
That's who they're making the film for.
That's it.
Although, to be fair, Ben, that would kind of toe the line with other Denis Villeneuve films, where there are 3 or 4 people who really like them and no one else goes to see them.
And again, us who really like them, we're
there
going, this is bloody great. This is sure to be a roaring success. Oh.
What a roaring success. No, it wasn't. It was a critical and financial failure. Well, critical success, but financial failure. Benjamin, what did you think of the book Dune?
The book Dune is very good, Michael.
Yeah, it is, isn't
the
it?
world building, Michael, which you had warned me about. Oof, such world building. Like a whole language and culture just conjured.
Yeah. You get it's like getting a gum jabbar right in the neck.
Yeah, it's exactly like that, Michael. Exactly like that. It's like seeing the many paths of time fold out before you and not being able to choose one.
Yeah. Exactly
It's
like
very
that.
like that, Michael.
Yes. Benjamin.
Yes.
Coincidentally enough, just as you finish reading the book, the trailer for the new film Dune by author, producer, director Denis Villeneuve has been released. That was a mouthful of a sentence, wasn't it?
I was fascinated, Michael, that Denis Villeneuve had almost the exact same idea as Frank Herbert did so many years ago and made an entire movie. I wonder, has he read the book?
I think he probably has been. He's probably also seen David Lynch's 1989 opus, Dune.
Opus is a strong word, Michael, because I checked that out.
Oh, did you watch it?
Yes, I did.
What did you think of the 1989 film Dune?
Well, bloody Paul Atreides is a bit old, isn't he?
Isn't he? Yeah.
That's not quite Paul Atreides.
It's noted teenage boy Kyle MacLachlan in his 20s.
17 years old, my ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty weird. I also, Michael, tracked down the documentary Jodorowsky's Dune, which is very interesting.
We've talked about it before, Ben, on this podcast at length. But yeah, it would have been terrifying with Salvador Dali on production design.
As Emperor of the Universe, also.
Oh, yeah. I forgot
he would have been Emperor of the Universe.
Hmm.
Michael, I enjoyed the cyclical nature of that book. I enjoyed the long-arcing thing. I am very interested, Michael, to see how the casting choices will affect the characters, because you build up a very strong image of those characters. His characters are very filled with personality. Gurney Halleck, what a character, Michael.
Yeah.
What a character.
What I'm mostly excited about, Ben, is Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho as Jason Momoa. That's going to be pretty interesting. Jason Momoa can't help.
It doesn't really. Hang on, just 1 second. You spin your wheels.
He just can't help Jason Momoaing about the place, can he? Benjamin has stood up to go and deal with his dog, and he's wearing a Sylvester and Tweety Bird t-shirt today, which will now be appearing on the podcast's Instagram.
Yes.
So Benjamin, you'll be sure to post that picture on Instagram later today. Oh, Benjamin. Of course, Benjamin, my favorite piece of Dune media adaptation is the Fatboy Slim song "Weapon of Choice."
Is that an adaptation of Dune?
Well, Ben, if you walk without rhythm, then you won't attract the worm.
That's the maker, Michael. The maker. We here are faithful. It's the maker.
Yeah.
Set yourself with your off-worlder bloody worm chat.
Well,
Michael,
that's the lyrics of the song. You see,
I do have to dampen this squib a little.
Go on.
As we go along, Michael, you'll notice in the casting, casting that planetologist Liet Kynes doesn't seem to be a man.
Oh, really? It's a lady.
It's a lady, and more important than that, Michael, it's a lady of color.
Oh, well, that's interesting, isn't it?
And in the pits that I dwell in the internet, guess who's delighted about that?
Get out of those pits, Ben.
Yeah, no, I need to stop spending time in the pits. It's no good.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of moaning about the fact that Liet Kynes is going to be played by a woman of colour. I don't think it makes one bloody pick of difference.
I don't remember. I haven't read the book in about 2 years, Ben, but I don't... Off the top of my head, just purely from the top of my dome, Ben,
yeah,
I can't think of how that could make any difference.
It really can't, Michael. I think one guy said, "Oh, but he has a daughter in the book," and then
No, women can have daughters too.
yeah, that was it. I enjoyed reading that interaction. I was like,
Almost,
wow.
Almost required, in fact, to have a woman for the production of a daughter.
It was very enjoyable. So yeah, the only thing that seems to be really irking people or confusing people is there's no bloody Sting.
Where's
Cast.
Sting?
Sting's not been cast.
Why
There's no
would he be,
Fade
Ben?
Ralpha.
Sometimes
Rotha.
Sometimes you cast a film and you put different people in it and different characters.
Yes, I think, Michael, and this is
Yes.
my no evidence theory.
Oh, good.
I think the Dave Bautista character who's playing Raban is going to be an Amalga Harkonnen.
You think so?
I think he's going to be a little bit of everything.
No, but is he not clearly one of the soldiers? What are the soldiers called again?
Which ones?
Sardaukar.
Oh, the Sardaukar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I don't
Isn't-
know,
is he
Michael,
not-
because
is
we
he not-
only
I
got
thought-
glimpses, Michael. We only got glimpses.
I assumed he was. I hope he has a fight with Jason Momoa. I'd like to see. Not in real life. I mean, I'd like to see Dave Bautista fight Jason Momoa.
I don't know who'd win that, Michael. I think it'd be Dave Bautista.
I think it would. Yeah,
He's a bit tanky, isn't he? He's
had
a
a fight or
firm
two.
man.
He's had a real fight or two. He's not much use, but he's probably But although Jason Momoa could throw axes at him and then drink a pint of Guinness.
Yeah, and then everybody would cheer him.
Yeah, that'd be.
And Dave
to his
Bautista would
advantage.
lose in the court of public opinion.
Benjamin,
Go on.
speaking of secret internet racist cesspools,
Oh, no.
have you been on the website www.stormfront.com recently?
Oh, fuck. No, I haven't, Michael.
Oh, because if you had, you might find some spoilers for the Amazon TV series The Boys.
The Boys.
See what I've done there? That was too convoluted. That was a convoluted segue.
That was, Michael. You made a fictional website in which we could...
No, that's a real website.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Ben. That's the kind. Are you up to date on The Boys, Ben?
I have one episode left in the current run.
Okay, so you're not up to date on The Boys, but anyway, because you've read the comic The Boys.
Will we do spoilers quickly?
We'll do a little spoiler warning for The Boys here, Ben.
Yep, turn away unless you want Carl Urban to call you a bloody because I can't say that on the podcast.
Or can we not? Okay. So Benjamin, Stormfront in the comics, as you remember, is a Nazi.
Yes, big old Nazi.
And the name Stormfront, Ben, comes from web culture. Stormfront is a very famous racist website group.
Oh no.
So when people who know about racists see the name Stormfront, that's very much like a nationalist.
That's a red
ultra-right-wing.
flag.
Yeah, it's a red. So, it was a little odd that in the beginning episodes of The Boys, she was so likable and friendly, and against the system.
Yes, because you sent me a text, Michael, saying, "Oh, I don't know how I feel about this Stormfront chick."
Yeah, I don't know if I trust her, Ben. And it turns out, Ben, we were right not to trust her.
Oh, she's a big bloody alt-righter, Michael.
Oh, she's no use. Well, she's much worse than an alt-righter, Ben. Obviously, you're an episode behind.
No. I saw that. Wait, no, hang on. All right, I've finished. I'm waiting to watch episode 6. I have watched episode 5 where we've blamed the terrorist attack on poor young one's brother.
Okay, so you're a bit behind, Ben. We won't go too heavily into spoilers because there's lots of little twists and turns in the next episode.
Oh.
But we very much find out who Stormfront is.
Oh no!
And it's just as bad as it could have possibly been, if not worse. And Benjamin, we find out who the mysterious character played by your favorite actor Sean or Aaron Ashmore is. And I'll tell you, Ben, it's quite the little twist.
Is there an Ashmore? I didn't know there was an Ashmore coming.
Yeah, he's in it. He was in episode 5, if you remember.
Oh,
he was working in the mental hospital.
You're right. You're absolutely right, Michael. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This was one of the Ashmores. Michael, there's been a little bit of boys news that has set the fandom ablaze.
Boys news.
My doppelganger, Jensen Ackles, is set to be in season 3.
Oh yeah, that was a while ago, Ben.
He's to play Soldier Boy.
Yeah, the first American super soldier. I thought there was other news. I thought there was news just this weekend that there's going to be a Boys spin-off.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, the cojones that would take. What is the spin-off to be, Michael?
I don't know, Ben. I only caught a bare glimpse of it. So
well, I'll quickly, you spin your wheels there.
I mean, it is interesting in a show so strongly anti-corporate
That we're going super corporate.
that it's going super corporate. And I mean, while being so strongly anti-corporate, while being so against Vought, it is produced by Amazon, the world's most evil company.
The closest thing we have to Vought in real life.
I know, it's pretty funny, isn't it? There's a certain amount of irony to that, Ben. But I tell you what, it's a very good show, and the next episode is absolutely disgusting.
Oh no.
Because horrible things happen to people's bodies all the time.
They do. Horrible things happen to people's bodies all the time, Michael. What an interesting buttery segue that is.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Very good, Michael. Michael, this week,
Yes?
I don't know why I did this to myself. But
Yeah, you don't even like horror, Ben.
I don't even like horror, Michael. I found myself thinking about body horror. Now, that's probably because we've been watching a bit of Lovecraft Country, Michael. Getting involved over there. But I found myself thinking about body horror, Michael. And you being an expert on body horror, and Shane being an expert on body horror, and me being a living example of body horror, it just seemed like a good topic to do. But Michael, I had to research this week's podcast, and I had to stop eating.
Because it's gross, Ben.
I needed to be nice and empty before I attempted to do any body horror research. It was bloody awful. It was bloody awful. So, Michael, you asked me the famous question that kicks off our little segments there.
Benjamin, what even is body horror in all and anyways?
Nice, well done. So, in general, Michael, horror is a very fast...
Benjamin, it's my bloody armpits after I've been for a run. Body horror.
They keep trying to eat people. It's very strange. So, Michael, horror is a big old genre, and there are lots of different little subgenres within that big old genre. But none, Michael, are more disgusting than body horror.
What other genres are there, Ben? Spooky ghosts?
We've got spooky bloody ghosts. We've got
aliens.
Aliens, cosmic horror. It's a classic. It's a classic.
Men jumping out at you.
Men jumping out, jump scare. We got body gore. And we'll get into that. There are a few differences there, Michael, between the old body horror and body gore. We'll get into that. But Michael, this little genre, this little shindig of body horror kind of kicked off in the late 70s, early 80s. And it rose to prominence, Michael, because of societal fears around things like HIV.
Oh, the old HIV is back.
And Michael, the whole reason that it rose to prominence is because we began to fear what was within our own bodies.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it wasn't great. So basically, this concept of hidden enemies, such as viral bacteria or a disease or a virus.
Yeah. What's a viral bacteria, Ben?
It's very similar to regular bacteria. I've stumbled over my own words, Michael. You're to leave me be. I'm trying to get through.
You've really upset me there by saying viral bacteria. I know it's a footnote in the overall podcast, but
I'm sorry, Michael.
I didn't like it. Right, go on. So there's viral bacteria. Yeah, there's other things that upset me.
Fuck you. Leave me alone. I have to do this.
Okay, sorry. Viral bacteria. What does that even mean? Doesn't even mean anything. So Ben, the fear of what's inside us.
The fear of what's inside us. The notion of parasites, viruses, things like that, changing who we are as people. Now, Michael, it should be pointed out before we get into this. The man who kind of pioneered this is David Cronenberg. He would have been the early pioneer of morphing bodies all over the place and turning them into big spooky masses of flesh, which is just not a nice phrase.
No.
But it's important to note, Michael, that this concept of transformation or metamorphosis has been around for a very, 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 very long time.
Go on.
I suppose the earliest example in novels would be Kafka.
How Kafkaesque.
How Kafkaesque. He wrote a famous short story, Michael, called The Metamorphosis. And it's about a businessman who wakes up one day to find he's a big old bloody cockroach.
No.
Yeah, and he's just... But the horror of it is, Michael, he's still sentient and knows that he was human. And so he has to grapple with that.
And is he a human-sized cockroach or is he a small cockroach?
He's a human-sized cockroach.
That's a big cockroach.
It's a big cockroach. It's very, very big. So that was kind of one of the early ones, and that was experimented with throughout the late Victorian period and early 20th century. We had lots of little things like that. And, changing your body, making you into a monster, losing your sense of self, Michael. No good.
I see.
And then there are actually a couple of B movies that came out in the 1950s that kind of ran with that theme. One of them, named after a now very, very popular female's pleasure toy called the Tingler in 1959.
I've seen it.
And that is literally a little leechy thing that would latch onto people and turn them into horrifying monsters in a very B-movie-esque kind of way. And then the one that really leaned into that,
Benjamin,
Michael...
hold on, I'm going to cut across you there for a second. Did you ever hear about the gimmick that sold the Tingler?
No.
So in the Tingler, and the effect of this is lost slightly watching it at home, but when it was released in cinemas, I can't remember the producer's name, but he loved gimmicks.
Right.
He was one of those kind of smell-o-vision guys.
Oh, no way.
And he had, in some cinemas, there's a scene in the Tingler where the Tingler escapes into a cinema and starts attacking cinema goers. And some seats in cinemas were fitted with vibrating buzzers, so that when the Tingler attacked in the cinema, people's chairs would start vibrating and freak them out.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's not really body horror, but it is a little trivia.
That's a great little... That's podcast gold, Michael.
It's an interesting bit of horror trivia, Ben.
Don't you dare belittle your contribution to my little Tingler rant. So, there was the Tingler, and then in a much more kind of strange, out there kind of version of a B movie, you had Quartermass Experiment in 1955. And that was about an island and an experiment gone wrong, and it was changing people into monstrosities, and it was all plenty... Ugh.
Now, Benjamin, here I have a couple of questions for you here about the origin of body horror. Is a Frankenstein, is that a body horror, Ben, a Frankenstein?
I mean, I suppose you could argue very, very strongly, Michael, that it is a form of body horror.
Is it?
One of the key scenes in Frankenstein that would mark it out as body horror is the dream sequence that Victor Frankenstein experiences, where his lady bride-to-be gives birth to a monstrous aberration that's already dead. Abnormal births and grotesque birth is a key trope of the body horror genre.
And what about, Benjamin? What about the Island of Dr. Moreau?
Michael, another wonderful contribution from the Victorian period towards body horror, whereupon a man pushes science to its limits and transforms people into disgusting creatures.
Yeah, like cockroaches.
Like cockroaches, or cobbled together monster creature thingies.
Animal men things.
Animal men.
Gross.
With animal brains and animal hearts.
But men's bodies.
That's what makes them spooky.
I think it was the opposite, but go on anyway.
Go on. Anyway, Michael, those are all early contributors, but none have done it quite as well as the 80s.
Oh, the 80s.
As I mentioned previously, because of things like HIV. David Cronenberg kind of pioneered with a whole host of movies where he looked at different effects. You had Rabid. You had... I can't remember the name of the first one. It's going to drive me nuts.
David Cronenberg's Monsters.
Yeah, it's just David Cronenberg's Monsters. Think of it that way. And in each one, he would look at what would happen when one person was altered and then would spread the infection. That's
like in
how it worked. And then I suppose what really solidifies that genre and the movie that everybody talks about, Michael, is The Fly. Because The Fly is the closest in parallel to HIV and the experience that some people went through with HIV, whereupon a man becomes very promiscuous, runs around, falls in love, and after a sexual encounter becomes a big bloody fly thing. Things fall off.
But it's not after a sexual encounter, Ben. He teleports himself.
Yes, but in the narrative, Michael, in the sequence of the narrative, if you were to follow the beats of the narrative, Michael, it does seem to closely mirror how one would contract and then suffer from HIV.
Yeah, he becomes a big gross fly.
He does become a big gross fly. Luckily, the production team were able to reverse it, and Jeff Goldblum went on to have a great career.
Yeah, that is lucky. Benjamin, have you seen the original The Fly, where the fly is just a fly with a man's head?
No.
And he's like, "Help me, I'm stuck in a web." It's
what?
I'm not doing a joke. That's how the original version of The Fly ends.
Amazing.
It's much less body horror. He just he merges himself with a fly and he becomes a fly with a man's head and he gets stuck in a web.
So, Michael, that actually brings up another interesting point. You're on fire today, Michael, for just leading me into the next point. Congratulations.
It's almost like we planned it.
It's almost like we planned it. So, in this particular case, Michael,
for clarity, we didn't plan it. We never do.
A lot of those early body horror movies in the 80s are actually just remakes of B movies from the 50s, like The Fly or Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing, which is a remake of a 1950s flick. And the reason that these remakes became so popular is because the concept of body horror was explored in the early 50s, but it couldn't really reach that nauseating height because special effects hadn't caught up.
That's what I was going to say, Ben. When you were saying earlier that it was the 1980s and the AIDS epidemic and, fear of the ins, what I was thinking was, Ben, that's nonsense, Ben. What's actually happened is we finally have the technology to make movies as gross as the horrible, gross movie people wanted to make them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Michael.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, a lot of early body horror gore is just animal guts, which has been available from time immemorial.
Yeah, people are a fan of animal guts, Michael. It's a whole thing.
Just chucking cow intestines at each other and calling it horror.
Just chucking it around.
Gross. Gross and horrible.
Gross, sticky, and horrible. Don't like it.
So where are we going next, Ben?
Sorry, yeah. So...
You sending a text message?
No, I was reading the listeners' contributions to our podcast this week.
Okay, very good.
So, Michael, that brings us on to some other kind of interesting... As you not as you know, but body horror is usually the key aim of body horror, or perhaps what marks out good body horror over just gross, nasty, icky cow intestines being chucked at people, is the core question of what happens when you lose yourself, or at what point do you lose your sense of self? So where do you end and the rabid, monstrous virus begin? And those questions are often used to great effect. They're used to investigate different societal influences and things like that. If we take a look at Japan has a huge history of body horror.
Go on.
And that is largely to do with their exceptionally progressive technological society. Their body horror is quite often to do with merging with machines. There are several noted examples of that. The key one probably being Akira, which we've all...
I've seen it.
Yes, we probably have. So the manga scene in Japan really had a boom of body horror in the late 1980s after seeing things like Cronenberg's The Fly, etc. And they were largely inspired by that. And three particular creations came out. That was Akira, Parasite, and The Spiral. So The Spiral was written by Junji Ito, who is a famous horror graphic novelist, cartoonist in Japan. You can still read his stuff today. I don't recommend doing it before bedtime because you will be unnerved and you will never look at a Spiral the same way. All three of those dealt with the body horror genre in distinct ways. First of all, you had Akira, which is where bloody humans and machines begin to merge in horrific, horrible, gooey, icky ways.
Right.
You had Parasite, whereupon an alien body begins to assimilate people by taking over their bodies and turning them into gross aberrations.
Right.
And then you had The Spiral, whereupon ancient tradition begins to warp and turn people into demonic, monstery things in nightmare realms. It's awful. All very unnerving. But those are all used to reflect societal things that people have to deal with. And so, Michael, a lot of those have come along. But then, Michael, there are the people that say, nah, I just want to make a really gross film. Let me make a really gross film. And they do that.
Right, go on.
And it unnerves me and it makes me uncomfortable because it doesn't make me think about the human condition, Michael. It just makes me go, ugh.
I don't like it. Yeah,
I don't like it. And I suppose that's where the line gets a little bit blurred, Michael, because very often you'll hear people say things like, Saw is body horror, or Hostel is body horror, or The Human Centipede is body horror. And that's not really the case, Michael.
Right, go on.
Because there's nothing transforming those people from within, and they're kind of surgically modified or tortured into gross kind of gore porn. And it doesn't necessarily fulfill the necessary steps of body horror. Now, Michael, that being said, what do I know? If you want to go and call Hostel bloody body horror, off you go.
I would say it's a fine line, man, between the old classic body horror and torture porn.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I get what you're putting down. I get what you're putting down, Michael. There was a strange resurgence in the last couple of years, though, Michael, of body horror films. And we had to watch some this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a bit of a quiet period in the 1990s where we didn't have so much. Huh?
Well, like one of the most famous body horror from the 90s, Ben, is the Japanese film Audition.
Oh, go on.
Have you ever seen the film Audition?
I haven't seen the film Audition.
You've never seen the film Audition?
I've never seen the film Audition.
The film Audition, Ben, is a Japanese horror film from 1999.
I can't believe I haven't seen the film Audition from 1999.
Well, it's your favorite film by your favorite Japanese horror film director, Takashi Miike.
Yes, of course.
And it's about a man. He's a Ben, I saw this a few years ago, and I didn't really get it because, Ben, we're talking the early days of the internet here in 1999, and rumors spread that it was one of the most horrific things ever recorded.
Classic.
And it became a bit of a cool guy thing to do to have seen the film Audition in the 90s. Because it meant you were edgy and international, and you could deal with gross horror. And it's about a man. And it's what's weird about Audition as a horror film, Ben, is it is 90 minutes or so of a psychological drama.
Okay.
And then 15 minutes or so of gross body horror.
Mm.
And then maybe it was all a dream.
Oh.
Which is classic. So it's about a Japanese businessman, Ben, and his wife dies, and he says, "I want a new wife. Get me one."
Fair.
And they decide to have an audition, Ben. That's where the title comes from.
Look at that.
An audition to find a wife. But the audition is under false pretenses of being for a TV show or a movie or something.
Sneaky.
And Ben, relationships formed on false pretenses are not the best idea.
They don't last very long, Michael.
But Ben, what you're subject to is he finds a lady and he's kind of smitten with her.
Aww.
And there's questions about her past and where her various employers and people in her life have disappeared to.
Okay.
And if some of them have met grisly ends. But Ben, it's a psychological drama.
Yes.
And then it turns out, or does it, that she has kidnapped a man, cut off his fingers and feet.
What?
And keeps him in a sack. And she feeds him with her own regurgitated vomit.
Ah.
Yeah. And now, did that really happen, or is it a flashback? I'm not sure. Yeah. And then the lady finds out that the man that did the audition, he was a bit of a bad egg. So maybe she knew he was a bad egg all along, so she's getting revenge on him. Or maybe she's just a psycho killer. But she gives him an old drug in the tea, Ben.
No, not drugged tea.
Never take a drugged tea.
Never take a tea from a pretty lady.
No, never do. And he wakes up, Ben, and she's in a butcher's apron.
Oh.
She's in a white shirt and a black leather butcher's apron.
Oh, no.
And he's paralyzed.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, Ben. And she bloody gets to work.
If I had a nickel for every time I had to go and get limb reattachment services after I drank a bloody tea from a pretty lady.
Very unpleasant, Ben.
I'd have 3 nickels.
Yeah. You'd have 75 American cents. No, that's quarters. That's 3/4. I don't know what a nickel is, Ben. Is that 5 cents or 10 cents?
I don't know, Michael.
I don't
We're
know.
not Americans.
We're not American people here. But, yeah, Ben, gross and terrifying and horrible. But then it turns out that maybe it was just a dream, but not as horrific as modern stuff.
Modern stuff gets weird, Michael.
Yeah.
Modern stuff gets weird. So, I mean, one of the ones that I still cannot scrub from my mind is Slither from 2006.
You don't like it, Ben. I
don't
it,
like
but
it.
you don't like it. It's one of your least favourites.
We've talked about it a few times here, Michael, and Slither just makes my skin crawl.
Yeah. Despite starring your and my favourite actor, Michael Rooker.
And Nathan Fillion. We've got bloody Nathan Fills.
Yeah, and is Elizabeth Banks in that as well?
Elizabeth Banks is in that as well, Michael. And bloody James Gunn was at the helm.
What a cast.
This was back when James Gunn was making dirty jokes on his Twitter that he would get in trouble for 10 years later.
Yeah. Can't do that anymore.
And 2006 Slither is a classic kind of B-movie plot. It came from outer space and infected the town.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. Poor old Michael Rooker finds it, gets infected, and then he spends his time wandering around being like, I'm going to infect you, and I'm going to infect you, and I'm going to assimilate you.
Yeah.
And it gets bloody big and gross and really scary, Michael. There's a horrible scene in a shower where a lady pulls a big old tentacle out of her mouth.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's grim stuff, and it is It's interesting that you said for Audition that, mostly it's a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
And then about 15 minutes of body horror at the end. This would probably be the opposite, Michael. This is just body horror from the get-go.
There's no psychology in that whatsoever.
Yeah, we don't need that, Michael. It's become something of a cult classic, and I don't think it really investigates. It's very tongue-in-cheek, Michael. Seems to be a thing with body horror, especially in the modern sense. There's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek, wink-wink humor to it as we go along. There's a lot of that going on in this particular film. And I don't know if it stood the test of time, but it's certainly still marked out as a body horror classic. Although why you'd want to be a body horror classic, I don't know.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
I have watched this week one of the most unpleasant things I've ever seen on screen.
I know what you're going to say.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the Kevin Smith film Tusk?
Yes, 2014's bloody Tusk. Because I had to watch that this week as well.
I would strongly recommend not watching it because it is one of the most horrific things I've ever seen committed to screen.
Like, do you know the story behind this, Michael?
I do, but do you want to tell us anyway, Ben? Will I give some faux ignorance?
So
no, Ben, why don't you tell me?
This is a huge departure for Kevin Smith.
Yeah,
this is not... People heard about Tusk and they're like, oh, Kevin Smith's making a movie. Oh, great.
Probably be some witty banter.
There's probably be some witty banter. And you'd be forgiven in the first 20 minutes of that movie for thinking that, oh, this is a classic Kevin Smith kind of shtick.
Yeah, there's two pricks. They have a podcast. They're very unpleasant.
One of them goes to Canada.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to us, Michael. Two pricks with a podcast. One of them goes to Florence.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah, they've given their podcast a stupid name, which is now coming back to haunt them slightly.
Almost every time we record an episode. They record an episode, sorry.
It's not about us, then.
So anyway.
Yes.
And people were kind of wondering, they're like, why? Why, Kevin? Why'd you do this? So basically, Kevin Smith discovered on his podcast, Schmodcast at the time was what it was called.
Yes.
They discovered a story about a Craigslist advertisement for a man offering free room and board to anyone who was willing to dress up in a walrus costume.
Yeah.
Now, Michael,
how are you pronouncing that word?
Huh?
How are you pronouncing that word there?
Walrus?
Oh,
walrus?
That's interesting.
Do you say
it's
walrus?
Yeah, it's not that I say walrus. That's how it's said.
Sorry, I'll say walrus from now on. Sorry.
Well, why do you say it?
I said walrus. I don't know why I said walrus. I feel like an idiot now.
This is very interesting.
Okay, it's a walrus. So anyone willing to dress up as a walrus.
This is like the Benedict Cumberbatch penguin thing.
I know, it just slipped
all
out.
over again.
I'm going to have to...
No, I prefer the way you're saying it. Stick to what you're saying.
Okay, so
walrus,
anyone willing to dress up as a walrus.
That's mad. Keep going. Do keep going, though. It's enjoyable for me.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Naturally, Kevin Smith being Kevin Smith, he put this out to his podcast listeners and said, would you watch a movie if I made a movie out of this? And they all went, yeah.
Yeah, we would, Kevin.
Yeah. Boy, were they wrong, huh?
Apparently, Ben, it was a minor critical and commercial success.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought that having watched it.
No, it was. It was. People liked it, and it made a bit of money.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice for Kevin.
Yeah,
I like
good
Kevin.
on you, Kevin.
I like Kevin.
His follow-up, not so much.
Yeah, he hasn't done much lately, but that's okay. That's okay, Michael. Huh. So, it turns out that Craigslist ad was fake. It was proven.
It was a joke.
But by then he'd already made the movie. He was like, well, fuck it, I'm putting out the movie. So he put out the movie. And Michael, what follows is just uncomfortable.
It's one of the worst things I've ever seen put on screen.
It's just awful.
It's like violence and horrible things happening on screen don't bother me. But this film actually slightly bothered me.
It's because it's so disturbing, Michael.
It's one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen, Ben. I felt bad for Justin Long, Ben.
Justin Long, Michael. Nobody likes Justin Long.
I wouldn't piss on Justin Long if he was on fire. And my piss was acid.
But I would now. I would, having seen that bloody fucking film.
Yeah. But I mean, not only did I feel bad for Justin Long's character, I even felt bad for the actor Justin Long. I thought, bloody hell, that was brave to put yourself through. Then I realized he doesn't actually become really a walrus. But even the filming of it must have been grossly
intense and awful,
uncomfortable and demeaning and intense.
So, for those of you that don't know, I'm gonna do a spoiler, right?
So Ben, hold on a second. What I was going to?
Oh, sorry, go on.
I would now piss on Justin Long if he was on fire, because it's given me a whole newfound respect for Justin Long. Because he always plays these obnoxious characters, and by God, that must have taken some balls to make that movie.
Yeah, he committed. He committed.
So committed.
Him
to being
and the actor that played the Eugh fella.
Yeah.
Some intense dialogues going on there.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. So we do a quick...
Oh yeah, no, there's full spoilers here.
Now, look, if you've eaten in the last 24 hours, give this a miss. All right, skip to the end where I do my nice, warm, cuddly wrap up, and skip to the end. Basically, obnoxious podcast host in the States.
Yeah,
goes up to Canada to discover some stories.
Yeah,
gets contacted
some Canada
by
jokes.
Huh?
There's some good Canada jokes.
Some great Canada jokes. A boot is made fun of plentiful times.
Yeah, Canada-do's and Canada-don'ts.
So anyway, he gets contacted by a mysterious old man with a delectable podcasting past that could be exploited and turned into many wonderful stories.
Yeah.
And Michael, it kind of taps into that craze of podcasting that was out at the time, where you had all these mystery podcasts like Shittown and Criminal and things like that. They were just kind of getting off the ground. That little sub-genre of podcasting was getting off the ground. So it was kind of riding that wave of investigative podcasting. And he meets this man, and the man tells him a bizarre story about his encounter with a walrus. Which is not how you say it. Which is not how you say
it. At least it's adding some levity to the situation. Go on, keep going.
And just Long goes, all right, okay, so you fell in love with a walrus, so you had a weird sexual encounter with a walrus. And the old man says, yeah, they're mysterious and they're better than people. And Justin Long is like, I don't know if that's true, while he pretends to give a blowjob to a tusk. And anyway, it turns out, Michael, that not only should you not accept tea from a pretty young Japanese lady, you also shouldn't accept tea from elflas who have mysterious pasts.
Yeah, no.
Because then the film Misery takes over after that. He passes out and he wakes up, and he has various surgeries performed on him against his will. His legs get amputated.
Yeah, not great.
And that's not the worst part, Michael.
No. It's only the start. Although that is in itself horrific.
Horrific, Michael.
The scene where he wakes up and realizes his legs have been cut off is horrific and wonderfully juxtaposed with the kind of comedy leg chopping off from the beginning of the film.
Yep, it's not anywhere near that anymore.
It's nothing like it. It's so interesting to see two dismemberments handled so differently
with
in
such
a film.
different.
Yeah. But also, you've said there something, but funnily enough, that part of it is very similar to Audition.
Oh.
Because, he's drugged.
Yes.
And then dismembered.
Yes.
The thing the difference in Audition, of course, is that he is awake when it's happening.
Oh.
And
that's so much worse.
In some ways, it's worse. But in other ways, there's a certain relatability to the horror of waking up and your leg not being there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because we've all had that dream.
Have we?
No, well, we've all had dreams where things are wrong. You know what I mean?
Don't think we have been. That's very interesting.
I have very strange dreams then. Okay, never mind. Never mind. That's not...
Anyway, sorry, go on. So he gets sewn into a walrus.
Yes. So anyway, it turns out the creepy old guy in a wheelchair is trying to make him into a fucking walrus. He has a big old skin suit, Michael.
Yeah.
And he sews him into the skin suit.
Yeah. And, modifies his body, cuts off both his legs.
So he moves and acts like a walrus. He attaches these two giant tusks to Justin Long and turns him into a walrus. And
it's horrible.
what's fascinating about this movie fulfills exactly what I stated at the start. It's a question of where do we lose ourselves in the face of such horrific kind of circumstance? Because Justin Long has a lady.
Yeah, she does.
Back in the United States, and it's very often intercut with him imagining his beautiful lady friend.
Yeah.
And so he's going through the misery of knowing that he'll never be able to be with her again because he's a fucking walrus.
It's mad. It's one of the most deeply unpleasant and horrifying things I've ever seen.
And
but also a comedy.
And also a comedy, and that's why it's so jarring.
Yeah,
that's why it culminates, Michael, in a walrus battle.
Yeah.
Because creepy old guy straps himself into his own walrus skin suit.
It's mad, Ben. I don't like it. I don't even like thinking about it.
And they have to fight like they're on a David Attenborough documentary. And it's weird. And it's unsettling. And it's so unpleasant, Michael. And I do not, in my mind, have a recollection of being so unsettled by a film.
I've had a few, but it's definitely one of the worst fates that has ever happened to someone in a film.
Oh, it was just so bizarre.
Benjamin, if you remember, I think we've talked about it on the podcast before. I'm always certain we have. But I have talked about the kind of original body horror movie series, Hellraiser.
Yes, we have.
We have, for sure. And in Hellraiser, you solve the magic box and then the Cenobites come and they do horrible things to you for all eternity.
Twisty-turny weird things.
There is not one fate that befalls anyone in the entire series of Hellraiser that upset me as much as Justin Long being a walrus.
There's a couple of moments. Just to give listeners a better idea of this, there's a couple of moments. Sorry, the whole lead up to the big revelation of the suit.
Yeah.
We get glimpses and we get first person perspective shots in the water, and it's bizarre.
Yeah.
And nothing can prepare you for the shock of seeing the suit for the first time.
Justin Long is a walrus. Poor Justin Long.
It's no wonder his career went. Like, I
mean, I think the balls on that guy, the balls it must take to play a character laying so low.
Like, it should have won an Oscar. It should have won something.
That's a bit much, but it's incredible. It's gross. It's so gross weird and horrible. Benjamin, what did the listeners have to say?
Yeah, we put this out to you with probably my grossest Instagram post ever. Sorry about that. I did have one or two people go, "Ew, that's nasty."
What was it? Was it the picture of us on holiday?
I used a little stretchy face from The Thing to promote The Thing. So anyway, I added my own little contribution. I said Evil Dead 2 when Ash's hand turns against him.
Yeah. But do you remember when Justin Long became a walrus?
I do, actually.
That was much worse.
That
was much worse.
Agent Delta got in touch with us and said The Thing. We didn't really cover The Thing today because we watched Tusk, which is worse.
It's so much worse. There's a
worse.
scene where Justin Long gets sewn into a walrus suit that's made of human skin. I don't know if you remember that.
It's terrible.
Also, Ben, I think we're going to do a Thing episode at some stage where we have a look at the original Thing from the 50s, the 80s Thing, the prequel remake Thing, and the new proposed spin-off of the Thing. There's an episode for you.
There's a whole bloody episode for you.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Sean Northridge got in touch with us and said there's a great moment in Looper where a dude is slowly losing body parts in real time through freaky time travel techniques. I remember that.
That is interesting, isn't it?
Do you know what wasn't in that though?
What?
Someone being sewn into a skin suit to look like a walrus.
Yeah. The actor Justin Long having his own shin bones sharpened into tusks and then surgically attached to his face. That wasn't in it. That wasn't there.
Wasn't there, and the movie's lacking for it. That is a great sequence, though. It is a great sequence from, and a good suggestion from Sean Northridge there. Then we have good friend of the podcast, Dr. Catterwell, who says The Thing is king, but Society is probably the most effed up body horror ever. And I would have agreed with him, except that this week I watched Tusk.
Yeah, and in the film Tusk, Ben, I don't know if you know this, but actor Justin Long gets sewn into a walrus suit while his body is mutilated with his limbs removed so that he moves and acts like a walrus. I don't know if you know that about the film Tusk, but
And then finally,
grossly unpleasant.
finally, there's a useful little contribution there from Nine Wassies who says the thing, obviously, Hellraiser has some great stuff, and Mike's audition, audition is great for that as well. But
Mike's audition, that makes sense because his name's Takeshi Mike.
Okay, that's sorry, I misunderstood that there when I read it.
Yeah.
So
it's not the film Mike's audition. It's not. It's not the audition that I performed to get this role on this podcast, or the audition that the actor Justin Long performed to be sewn into a walrus suit for the film Tusk, which is horrible. It's the film audition by the director Takeshi Mike.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we're making our own body horror film where we flog a dead horse for all of eternity.
Yeah. You know what's a good universe, and I'm always coming back to this, but a good universe for body horror is the Warhammer universe. If you like body horror, there's lots of stuff in the Warhammer universe that you'll find deeply unpleasant.
We probably should do a proper deep dive into Chaos Marines.
Yeah, because they can get tentacles, Ben, but also much worse things.
But also much worse things.
Yeah. Real horrible things.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it from us this week. We hope you're not too scared from this week's episode, because Michael and I certainly are scared.
Yeah, we're not quite as scared as the actor Justin Long probably is. But pretty scared.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just took a 2-week hiatus, and I put a post up on the Instagram asking for your suggestions for future podcast episodes. We would love to hear from you about what you would like to hear covered on this particular podcast. And you can do that in a number of ways. You can get in touch with us on the old interwebs at www.seomrabeag.com.
It means Tiny Room in Irish, and I was meant to update that website while I was on holiday for 2 weeks, and I completely forgotten. I've just remembered now.
It's a holiday. So don't worry about it.
Hopefully it'll be up to date by tomorrow.
Or you can get in touch with us on Instagram at seomrabeag, SEOMRABEAG.
It still means Tiny Room in Irish.
Yeah, there's not much change there. You can give us any suggestions that you'd like to hear covered on the podcast. We actually know what the theme is for next week, and it's retro second wave. We're going to be taking a look at how things like Dune are getting their second wind now in modern cinematic making uppings, and we're going to look at retro aesthetics in new media and things like that. It's very interesting, Michael. Second waves all around. So if you have any suggestions for that, you can get in touch with those places as well. We've been on a 2-week hiatus. I've already said that, but I'm going to say it again. Yeah. We need a few reviews to boost the channel and push it up through the algorithms again. So if you're on Apple Podcasts, you can give us a lovely review. Just give us 5 stars.
Yeah.
5 stars, like Justin Long's performance in the movie Tusk.
Yeah, where he gets thrown into a walrus suit. It's very unpleasant.
If you're listening to us on Google Podcasts, do give us whatever form of approval there is there. If you're still listening to us on YouTube, well done you.
Yeah.
Well done you. Give us a like and subscribe if you fancy, or a comment. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we're a little niche community here, so if you have any friends that you think would enjoy this episode, do send it to them directly through the old Spotify.
Yeah, do. They're probably weirdos because they're like into body horror, like in the film Tusk.
That's it for us, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go get some counselling, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Ben, I think we'll probably... Do you want to stay on the line? We'll just end the podcast and we'll have a little chat about your dreams where you wake up and someone has cut off your limbs.
Yeah, Michael, we could make our own bloody audition with all the dreams that I have. That's no good. That's no good.
Right. Oh, gross.
Yeah,
okay,
no good.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, I don't like it.